For exclusive podcasts and more, sign up at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
This week's Law & Order Marathon winner is Poppy Houston of Oxford, Oxfordshire, United Kingdom. Poppy will get a marathon decal showing she watched 26.2 hours of her favorite crime show. To be next week's winner, sign up at lawandorderpodcast.com.
I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Sarah D. Bunting, and these are their stories.
You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. It's no ordinary police procedural, baby. It's the FNOG of police procedurals, baby. Law and order, law and order, law and order, law and order. These are their stories, these are their stories.
Welcome to These Are Their Stories, the podcast about network TV's most enduring crime franchise and the real-life cases that inspired their shows. I'm Kevin Flynn. Each podcast will break down an episode from either Criminal Intent, SVU, or Original Recipe. Today we're looking at Criminal Intent, Season 5, Episode 16, Dramma Giacosa.
She wore prosthetic teeth to leave a bite on Philip to match Laura.
She set him up. That's how she's getting him to the altar.
Joining me to do that is true crime author and the host of Crime Writers On and Netflix's You Can't Make This Up podcasts, Rebecca Lavoie. Hello, Rebecca.
I cannot work this way, Kevin. You're only here to support me. I am the real artist.
That's I am the maestro. And rounding out our panel is our special guest. I think this is the fourth time we've had her
At
on.
least.
Fifth time if you count the reruns.
There's never enough.
From the Blotter Presents, Sarah D. Bunting. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me back.
So, Sarah, I know the Criminal Intent fans in our audience are pulling their hair out because we're finally doing a Criminal Intent, and it's one without Gorin.
Or Eames.
Or Eames.
Yeah.
But look, I am a completist. There's a big chunk of Criminal Intent, as you know, that has different detective pairings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for fuck's sake, we did Law and Order with a Nina Cassidy episode. So,
Yes.
We
Also did a London one.
We had,
Oh, yeah.
had a Bernardo. So, Sarah, I know that you love the character Logan. You liked him being brought back to this show, and did you like what you saw?
I did. I mean, Criminal Intent was always there was always this sense that they felt like no one was watching except me and you guys. So they're just like, well, fuck it. Let's throw some jazz piano Jeff Goldblum at this shit and see if it sticks. And in my opinion, it did. I also enjoyed Eric Bogosian as the captain when that was a thing.
Mm-hmm,
But
right.
The Logan return worked for me, and I think this was a smart way for the franchise generally to bring him back into the fold after he had done his penance on the Isle of Staten, and in that super bad movie.
Exiled. But he did get to take out Profaci.
Profaci.
Oh, God. I mean, have you all covered that? Are you going to cover that?
Oh, I think we should. I mean, I just said we're a completist. We probably have to.
I mean, it's part of the canon.
Yeah. You remember there was a special cameo in that TV movie by Ice-T.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before SVU. Yeah, everybody does essentially an audition as a guest star before they ever make it on as a series regular.
Looks like someone got the job he wanted.
He dressed for the job he wanted. So look, almost a full quarter, probably more than almost a full third of Criminal Intent episodes have somebody else besides Gorin and Eames.
Right.
Between, as you said, the Logan stuff or the Jeff Goldblum, and I don't even know his character's name was, but and even with a different title sequence going back and forth between D'Onofrio and
whoever else it was.
Whoever else it was. So is it really the same show?
I don't know. Can we just talk for a second about why? Why did they do that? Was it because D'Onofrio didn't want to work that much?
No, and Sarah, you probably know this better. Do you want to take it?
I actually don't remember. I know that on the Eames side, Catherine Irby, I'm not sure if the timing lines up, but when she was getting divorced from what's his nuts from Oz, Terry Kitty, she was looking for an apartment and she was really salty towards him. Who was helping her find an apartment? My husband, the real estate broker.
So you broke up Your husband broke up.
Catherine Irby and her husband.
I mean, let's do a side-by-side with photos. He could have. He
Look, during season 4, this was a season where D'Onofrio passed out on the set 2 or 3 times within a couple of days. He was exhausted.
and dehydrated.
That's a rich person disease. Yeah, exhaustion.
Yeah.
I had to go away for exhaustion.
Same.
So
Can I do that? Cool.
So the following season, they broke up the workload by bringing on another set of detectives. Because think about it, unlike original Recipe Law and Order, those detectives are really only shooting a half an hour,
right?
Of the, or 22 minutes or whatever the hell it is, and these 2 detectives are throughout the entire show,
right? And then D'Onofrio's method, right? He's method,
yeah, and
right?
he's method.
Yeah.
All right, now let's look at the first half of this episode, Criminal Intent, Season 5, Episode 16, Dramma Giacosa.
Ooh.
Of course, they got to fucking call it. It's Criminal Intent. They got to come
2
up with
M's.
crazy.
2 M's.
The extra M is for murder. Or Mike Logan, whatever you guys want.
Look, lots of intrigue at the opera. At rehearsal, conductor Philip Reinhardt storms away from the costume racks, followed by a young violinist, Laura Booth. Booth's mother is famous singer Gillian Booth, who at rehearsal flubs a line and sends Reinhardt into a rage. I know he's such a prima donna himself. During intermission, Laura gets lost backstage and crosses paths with someone in the service elevator. Just as Act 2 resumes, we hear the thump of her body falling down the service vent from the roof.
So during, come on over, she's not gonna bite you. During intermission, what do the musicians do?
Eat, sleep. We thought maybe Laura got sick and went home.
She's got some really bad head wounds here.
Sticky. Oh, right, the strings. Be careful when you bag her hands. There's something sticky on her fingers, probably from the rosin of her violin strings. Maybe something from the killer stuck to her fingers.
She's got dust from the shaft in her mouth and in her nose. She was still alive in there.
Detectives Mike Logan and Carolyn Barek learned the sticky substance on her hands was cocaine. Seems all the traveling show's costumes were covered in it as part of a scheme to smuggle coke back into the country. Could Laura have picked up the residue from her attacker's clothes? Like the cocaine-sprinkled tuxedo of the maestro? Well, we know where else her fingerprints were, all over the sexual harassment section of her union handbook. Reinhardt had promised her first chair, plus he had an on-again, off-again relationship with her mother, Gillian. The singer says Reinhardt comforted her after her daughter's death and tried to remind Gillian that she visited his dressing room during intermission. Well, he has a harder time explaining the bite mark on his shoulder, which seems to match Laura's dental pattern. Logan and Barek arrest the murderous maestro. All right, first thing I noticed.
I can't wait to hear what the first thing you noticed was.
Yes.
Spoiled for choice here.
Yeah. Logan still has his brown leather coat after all these years.
Which is honestly the least extraordinary thing that happens in this episode.
Yeah, right.
By a lot.
Okay, she works at this opera house. How does she get lost backstage?
Okay, so many questions. One, what the hell kind of opera company is this that has the same singers and the same everything for every single show they do? That's not how it works. I'm not wrong about that.
It's the menudo of opera.
And second question, is there anything funnier than watching someone who is not a conductor pretending to conduct and someone who is not a violinist pretending to play the violin?
I think someone who's not a rock drummer pretending to
They didn't
drum.
even give them a cursory lesson in how to hold the thing. She's supposed to be a prodigy, and she looks like, when you're like a little kid and you're like...
Yeah. But they're like, hey, we don't want Chris Noth passing out either. Come on, we got to move this along.
This cocaine scheme, so elaborate and processy. I actually was like, I wish it would take this right turn into the literally seamy underbelly of costumers smuggling things in during tours.
What you did, Mimi, was you bought a few bricks of coke in South America. And you dissolved them in water, and then you dipped the costumes in them. And then when you got back, you soaked the costumes, and then you let the water evaporate, and bingo, cocaine.
I mean, everybody in this opera, singers, musicians, the conductor, are traipsing around in costumes covered in 30 pounds of high-grade South American nose candy. Is that why they're playing so fast?
Yeah, like, wow, I'm really sweaty. What?
I love the description of how they do it, and it's like, you just rinse out the costumes, let the water dehydrate, and bingo, cocaine and sweat.
Yeah.
Nothing like sweaty
And
cocaine.
lint, like, I feel like bingo perhaps overstates the ease with which this is accomplished. Like, there was all this tubing and a funnel.
Yes. And water, by the way, takes a very freaking long time to evaporate. It's not like 4 days later you got your Coke.
And did they have like a bubble over it? Like, I had more questions. About
also,
that.
so many anvils drop in the first 2 minutes of this episode, where it's like, green cloak. Where's the green cloak? Will it be dry by then? And then also 22 minutes. If you're not back in 22 minutes, it's like, better remember that. I'm going to put a pin in that. Bet that's going to be important later.
There will be a commercial, and I can go to the kitchen for more Neapolitan ice cream.
Hey, they have this moment of silence for Laura at the next performance.
They come because of me. Without me, this would be meaningless screeching.
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask you now to observe a minute of silence in memory of a beloved member of our family, violinist Laura Booth, who died tragically this past weekend.
But I noticed during the announcement they dance over why she's dead.
Died tragically. Also backstage,
as part of the air conditioning.
they announced the moment of silence, and the opera director lady and the maestro just start talking immediately. It's like, way to observe the moment of silence for your dead friend, guys.
Meanwhile, Rogers is eating popcorn with the ghost of Lenny Briscoe in the gallery. Poor Rogers.
Rogers hates Chris Noth so much, huh? The disdain.
She really does. Would you like to hear my Rogers in real life story?
Yeah.
Presidential election of 2016. I'm in line waiting to vote, and next to me is someone who really looks like Leslie Hendricks, and I'm trying to be cool because it's New York, failing utterly. So we're snaking through this high school gym. We vote, we leave together, and then she says victoriously to the sidewalk, I just voted for the first woman president of the United States.
Oh.
And then she vaped. It ended so poorly.
Well, hey, with this, there was a great bit of fan service. We learned that medical examiner Elizabeth Rogers likes opera, and Logan doesn't.
La donna mobile, qual piuma al vento.
Jeez, I never thought I'd envy the dead. Thanks for the concert, Rogers. Now tell us what happened to this girl.
And we learned that she had a surprising date to the opera.
By the way, your production of Aida 5 years ago, one of the best nights of my life. Lenny Briscoe took me.
Isn't that more of a Fontana move?
That does seem like a Fontana move.
Yeah. Hey, a dame like you want to see Aida? We're authorized.
That was good.
Thanks.
I mean, do you know anything about opera, Sarah? Because I know a little bit about opera.
I really don't.
I'm always amazed when they invoke, and it's happened a few times in Law & Order franchise, when they evoke Aida as the performance that they went to or whatever. Aida is this huge overblown thing with animals. It's sort of like the joke of the opera world. It's not actually
Rebecca,
a serious thing.
Every episode they have to explain what luminol is to America. Hey, let's take a look at the cast, okay? In the role of Logan's partner, Carolyn Barek, is Annabella Sciorra.
We found a musician's union handbook in her bag. It seemed unusual that she'd carry it around, so we had Leighton check it out. Laura's fingerprints were all over the section on sexual harassment.
Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Jungle Fever, The Sopranos. We learned that she was a victim of Harvey Weinstein, and her testimony at trial was the linchpin to his conviction. So the only question I have in regard to her is she a hero or a heroine?
Aw, hero.
Hero?
Yeah.
She's a heroine.
She's also an actor.
Hero. She's a fantastic hero.
She's incredible.
So Barek is a former profiler. She was Logan's partner for 12 episodes and then left without further explanation.
She's the Goran, right, of the season?
She is.
She
well,
knows,
yeah,
she
for
knows
this
things.
half of the season.
She
yeah.
knows things.
She knows things.
She knows things about history. She knows things about opera.
Yeah.
She knows things about bow rosin, although she thinks it goes on the strings. It does not. It goes on the bow. But she does. She seems to know things.
It goes on the bow?
Yeah, the rosin goes on the bow.
Oh, all right. So that makes one of us. Yeah.
Well, she didn't.
My 1 year of violin that led to completely incorrect air guitar fingerings, which my musician brother loves to point out every time.
We have a couple of Hey, It's That guys.
Hey, it's that guy.
Sarah, can you tell us who the maestro and alternate universe Sting is?
Discount alternate universe Sting.
Yeah, exactly. Yard sale Sting. Who's that?
That is Julian Sands.
I'm trying to create something beautiful and you just stand there banging away. Banging, banging, banging. After all I've done for you, you show me no respect as an artist.
Yeah, he's known for the British drama A Room with a View, where every other actor around him became famous. He's done a lot of horror films, and is most infamously known as Dr. Nick Cavanaugh in Boxing Helena, in which he amputates Sherilyn Finn's arms and legs to keep her a sexual prisoner. So fun stuff.
He was also Brideshead Revisited, yeah?
I don't know.
Is he British? What the hell kind of accent does he have in this? That's what I want to know. Is he supposed to be German? He's supposed to be like, what's going on with the accent?
I think it's the vaguely evil. There's a couple of original recipe episodes where the same guy is playing a conductor and they just sort of hand wave it like, oh, he's Belgian, because that's like the newscaster accent of Europe.
Can't have an American conductor.
I don't know what he's going for here. Snooty, I guess.
I don't know what he ever goes for. I think they said, we need somebody to overact.
Yes.
Who do we get?
Who is the biggest ham sandwich we can hire?
And they got a whole platter, in my opinion.
Julian Sands is married to Eugenia Sitkovits.
Who's that?
The heiress to the Guinness beer fortune.
Really?
Ooh,
yeah.
Handy.
Good for him.
It is. At one time, Julian Sands was obsessed with Laurence Olivier's tongue.
What?
Yeah, there's a quote. If you watch Olivier's interviews, he has this reptilian tongue. It seems too big for his mouth. My pursuit of that... I can't say it. My pursuit of that became distracting. So I let it go.
Congratulations.
That was really a journey that we all went on with Julian and Sir Lawrence's tongue.
Oh my God.
Do you have to go to an inpatient clinic for that?
I don't know. 12 steps to Olivier's tongue. Oh, we have a Hey, It's That girl.
Hey, it's that girl.
You know the name of the actress playing Gillian Booth? The singer, the opera singer?
Yes, I do. And I have a lot of information about this woman, sadly.
Oh, fantastic.
Cracks knuckles.
Go for it.
This is why we have you on the show.
I'm not actually 100 on the pronunciation of her name, but I believe it is Anne Kriega.
Alice
Kriega, sorry.
I might have been very vulnerable, but Philip is no cretin. All he did was encourage me to talk about Laura. I was trying to piece together what happened that night. She disappeared. He helped me fill in the blanks.
She is best known, I think, to everyone else for playing the Borg Queen in the Star Trek franchise. She's best known to me for her appearance in Season 3, Episode 14 of Beverly Hills 90210, in which she plays this one episode trick of Dylan McKay's, and she has this show jumper horse named Shadowcaster who is supposed to stand in for the corrosive effects of privilege or whatever the hell. They're making big eyes at each other through the whole episode, and she's like, why don't you stay in my guest house and work Shadowcaster? So for me and my, again with this Beverly Hills 90210 co-host, Tara Ariano, work Shadowcaster has now become an enduring euphemism for doing it.
Nice.
And I would just like to thank Alice Kriega and the writer's room of Beverly Hills 90210 for providing that.
Well, resistance is futile, so we all have to, I guess, work Shadowcaster sometime.
So our murder victim, Laura Booth, who's that? Anyone know?
So I should forget the whole thing when I've been lied to the whole time?
Maren Ireland.
Yeah.
Wait, who's that?
I think she ends up in these sort of like process-y con shows that only I watch, but she had a big role in Amazon's Sneaky Pete.
Yes.
And she was in a show called The Divide, starring basically everyone and produced by Tony Goldwyn, about criminal injustice in, I think, Philadelphia. She's a theater person mostly, which would explain why she's on Law and Order, and that she's only the body. That I was like, oh, it's Maren Ireland, and then I was like, how long ago was this that she has to be the victim? But Maren Ireland is awesome. I like her a lot.
Yeah. She forgot about her role as Sandy in the brief NBC series The Slap, in which Zachary Quinto slaps some kid at a picnic.
Cold decks that kid.
And the whole show goes from there.
I'm sorry.
It was a brat. He had it coming. We also see somebody before they were famous.
Before they were famous.
I'm being generous when I say famous, but certainly somebody America would come to recognize at a very tiny role. Who is playing master flutist and union rep Reggie Banks?
Every union in the building's got grievances against Fearsome Phil. He's a rageaholic. Thinks he's the only artist in the building.
That's Ron Cephas Jones. He would later play William Hill on This Is Us, Randall's father who abandoned him, and then they reunite, and then he dies of stomach cancer because there are no fucking happy endings on that show.
And everyone cried a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so who got this assignment? Fingerprint every page in this book.
Wouldn't it have just been easier to say, like, as happened with our mother's romance novels that we stole as a child, when we put the book down, it just opened to the page with the good stuff? Wouldn't that have been an easier device than the idea that somebody fingerprinted every page of a book?
Thank God. They hate that major case squad when they show up. Fingerprint everything, bag the hands. You know, it's just...
I have a question, a crime scene question. The guy who found the body, did he put the cover back on the vent after he found the body?
Because they're taking the vent off and you see the body in there when the detectives show
he
up.
Found her, it made him sick. But in that scene, you're watching them take the cover of the vent off and expose the body. Did he find it and he was just like, nope, and just put the cover back.
Or maybe he's like watched enough cop shows that he's like, well, I'm supposed to preserve the crime scene, and he just puts
Bring me some chalk.
That's probably what I would do. That I'd be like, all right, let me just wipe my prints off and then go call 911.
Because he asked for makeup, they somehow get probable cause for a body examination.
Yeah.
He literally works in show business.
Yep. And for some reason, he's covering up something that his clothes also covers up.
Bite mark on his shoulder. Here, I need makeup.
Let me put this makeup on this thing that nobody can see because I always wear a shirt.
Does he conduct in a tube top? And that would be necessary to cover it up.
Well, he does say that.
You think I need inducements to get what I want? On any night, I can point my baton at any woman in the audience and she's mine.
Well, whatever little stick that you pointed at her, we think that she swatted it down with the threat of a lawsuit.
Barek's response to that was 0 degrees Kelvin. Loved it.
That scene where they're interrogating him in his office.
Yeah.
Not interrogating. Trying to question him and he's just being a douchebag. Did anyone else notice, and I know it's a podcast so our listeners can't see this, all the awkward moments where either Barek or Logan just walked over to the window and sort of stared out for no reason? I was like, what are they looking for out there? It's like a way to get one of them out of the camera shot, I guess. What was that all about?
Explain blocking to us, Sarah.
I don't know. I was obsessed with that corner view and those beautiful old windows, but also knowing that they're drafty as fuck in the wintertime.
So honestly, they had to go to a judge and say he wanted makeup. Can we photograph his bare chest? And a judge said, yeah, that sounds like there's probably a crime there. There's more evidence that he's a coke fiend.
Did he just volunteer to go get the body thing? I mean, did we know that they wouldn't see them go to a judge?
Yeah, apparently he doesn't even know he's got a bite on him. It's in the back.
I have another question.
Yeah.
22-minute intermission. And we hear that during those 22 minutes, people are, quote, resting, they're partying, they're eating. 22 minutes is not a very freaking long time. And there's a hell of a long walk from the stage to wherever it is they do those things, as we see when poor Laura is like stumbling around at the locked doors. Why 22 minutes? And are we really supposed to believe that all of these things can be accomplished in a short period of time?
And also that the union rep, the late William Hill, wouldn't have been like, no, we're sticking on 30.
It's right. Yeah. That's right. Guess what? We're all going to be 8 minutes late. Act 2.
Take it up with the local. We'll see you when we see you.
All right, let's take a look at the second half of this episode. After signaling an interest in a plea bargain, Reinhardt reasserts his innocence later.
Don't you mean after saying, I didn't kill her, I didn't kill her, I didn't kill her, I didn't kill her, I didn't kill her?
And also saying, and I'm turning this into a ringtone somehow, punks, get out.
Go on, Kevin.
Gillian, dressed like a war widow from 1943, is there to support her daughter's killer.
I don't think Philip's lawyers would want me talking to you.
Well, did he tell you about the evidence that we have against Mr. Reinhardt? The bite on his neck from Laura?
I know about it. She bit him when he flirted with her in the wardrobe racks.
He told you this?
Laura did, the last time she came to my dressing room.
And why didn't you tell us that?
At the time, it wasn't important.
Your part-time boyfriend hits on your daughter? You don't think that's important?
Seems Gillian and Reinhardt's stormy relationship includes lawsuits against each other, followed by beautiful vacations. And about 2 hours after his arraignment, the couple gets married. Because Logan thinks, quote, the teeth look big, they learned someone could have used Laura's recent dental mold to fashion a fake bite mark. They discover dental resin in Gillian's bathroom. Well, this is exculpatory evidence, and it's very inconvenient to ADA Vance Carter and to Deakins, who promises to hide it in his bottom drawer, along with a crumpled-up copy of the Constitution. So, why does Gillian need to use a highlighter on a subway map to find her way around the city? Well, a patrolman, who's a big opera fan, by the way, one day spotted Gillian lost and confused and sent her to the hospital. After a series of HIPAA violations and info derived from non-existent bullshit databases, they learn a form of mad cow disease runs in Gillian's family. Did she kill her daughter and frame Reinhardt just to get him to take care of her in her final days? Well, they pull the old, why don't you listen through the mirror while the other interrogation goes on trick. It seems Reinhardt thinks that sickness and health stuff is bullshit, and he doesn't want to wipe her ass. A tearful Gillian admits to everything and wants to know who will take care of her before she dies. Well, it's the taxpayers, of course. Thanks, Obama.
As a New York State resident, I am on strike.
Dramma Giacosa means tragedy with jokes.
You looked that up, didn't you?
Yeah. Here's something I thought I'd never hear, though.
I still think the teeth looked a little big. You know what I mean?
Of course they do on the photograph. There's no banana for scale. So channeling her inner Gorin, Barek determines that because Gillian would highlight the route home to her daughter's house, that she's scared.
Terrified.
Couldn't that be Laura's map? I mean, she did get lost at intermission. She could very well get lost going home.
Oh, do you think that was like a hint that, well, Laura's dead, so I guess it doesn't matter that Laura's going to have the same terrible disease as her mother?
And that's why she got lost backstage. Everybody's got bad cow disease.
And why were there so many copies of the subway map? Because she's forgetful? How did she remember that pink was one way and yellow was the other way each time? I have so many questions.
Yeah, why is the patrolman a big opera fan? Why is everybody a big opera fan?
Don't be like that's stereotyping. Why wouldn't he be a big opera fan?
Because he's in Queens.
What are you trying to?
There are a lot of queens in the opera.
It's true.
Oh, okay.
Including a board queen.
The board queen. Everyone who picks Carver as their favorite prosecutor does so because they say he's not into prosecutorial misconduct.
No?
He doesn't fool around with the law.
No?
He is the dirtiest motherfucker.
Dental resin or no, Reinhardt is still the most viable suspect, and that bite is the most damning piece of evidence. I don't know what to do with this, and I don't want it falling in the wrong hands.
I'll put it in my bottom drawer, counselor. You want it, you let me know.
I don't relish the day.
I don't care about Brady versus Maryland. I don't want you finding evidence that the defendant is innocent.
I don't want this
It's gonna
getting
fuck up my case.
I don't want this getting into the wrong hands. Oh, you mean the hands of the defendant that it could, get out?
I got to arrest somebody.
He's so disgusted with them, too. Like, do I have to explain to you that we're trying to lock people up regardless of what the evidence actually suggests?
What, are you mad at us?
Yes,
for doing
shades
our
of
jobs?
the future Johnny Cochran on American Crime Story.
Yes.
I mean, I don't hate it.
Dental resin and makeup are the evidence that they're going with.
So here's my
They
question.
didn't find that in a bank.
Right.
They found it backstage at the Opera House.
Here's my question, right?
Yeah.
So they find this dental resin in Gillian's sink, and
Yeah.
they say it's something that makeup artists use to make costuming teeth.
Yeah.
Isn't Gillian the star in a production in which she wears makeup and ostensibly maybe sometimes fake teeth?
Yeah, it's not unusual. Even they're saying it.
They literally have it in the room next door.
Yeah. They never found the fake teeth.
It also just seems like such a long way to go, like going around the block to get to the house next door. Like, if
You think?
all you wanted was to marry the guy, like, there are way shorter cons that don't involve killing your kid.
Throwing them down an air shaft.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like, I guess mad cow doesn't affect your upper body strength. This is, I mean...
Barek really lays it on thick about how bad the end-of-life care is going to be.
Yeah.
That's what the next 3 years of your marriage look like. You'll have to feed her, bathe her, and attend to her most personal hygiene.
My God, what have I got myself into?
Philip, calm down.
Calm down. Have you read this?
She'll have spasms every day. And then there's the infections and bed sores.
Oh, stop. I can't handle it.
Philip, there are nurses, hospices.
Hospices won't take her until the very end. Until then, she'll be your 24/7 responsibility. All the sounds and smells of her disintegration.
This incendient.
She really focusing on the amount of wiping he's going to have to do. Jesus.
Take care of her most intimate hygiene.
You're going to have to scrub between the folds.
Oh, too far, Lavoy. Too far.
It's like, I'm just going to spray it from a distance.
They also, like, the idea that, like, the first thing that she'd say is, like, no, she's not going to be allowed to go to hospice up until the very end. I'm like,
what?
I've seen this guy's apartment. I'm pretty sure he can afford a nurse if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Just saying.
A couple.
Yeah. Also, another quick question about the maestro.
Yeah.
Does anybody ever go to a performance ever to see the conductor? Is that a thing?
Patrolmen from Queens, medical examiners.
Yes.
They're only here,
civil servants,
They're
apparently.
only here to see me. I don't know if you noticed, Maestro, but during the performance, you're down in a little pit and nobody can actually see you.
So when Gillian confronts Reinhardt and incriminates herself, it's Logan who is literally putting words in her mouth.
No, Philip, don't say that. No, please.
Talk to him. Talk.
Stay away from me, you murderess.
Philip, no.
Tell me you did it for him.
I did it for you. She was going to destroy you. Have you fired?
Your own daughter, that's how much you loved her.
My own daughter. I killed her for you. My savior. My seal.
Tell him you did it for him. I killed my own daughter. Can tell it.
Oh, Logan.
I'm just saying, if she weren't dead already, she would have a great case for appeal.
That's true. Also, Logan is very good at putting words in everybody's mouths. Did you see how he got that doctor to just like completely violate doctor-patient confidentiality in like 15 seconds?
Yeah.
Another piece of evidence that you can't use.
Let's say, for instance, my poor, sweet mother comes in with symptoms like Mrs. Booth's. What would you say? Stroke? Maybe she mixed up her meds?
Your poor sweet mother?
Yeah.
I would have ruled out a stroke. My next guess would be a form of dementia. But if your poor sweet mother is anything like Miss Booth, she'd refuse a full exam.
And like, oh, we're talking about your poor sweet mother. Wink, wink. Really? Because 2 seconds ago, she was not having it or him.
And then she looked up and saw him.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it.
Wow,
Sploosh.
shit, it's Mr. Big. Tell you, talk about a baton. By the way, I'm just going to say, she's an opera singer. I thought she could cry louder.
Oh, God. You mean at the end?
At the end.
You mean at the end when he calls
She
her?
could project more, I thought.
Look at you. Mad cow.
Oh, my God. Mad cow.
Remember when that was the thing we really feared, public health-wise?
Yeah.
Mad cow disease?
It seems so cute now.
It seems so cute. Give me a raw hamburger. I'll take it any day. All right, let's take a look at the real-life story that inspired this episode.
What?
Yeah, of course. Haven't you been on the show before?
Yeah, but it can't be a real-life story that inspired this episode.
Oh, yeah? It's time for Ripped from the Headlines.
You think you know who did it. You think you know who did it. But you don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. Ripped from the headlines.
This episode is inspired by the case known as the Murder at the Met. During a performance in 1980 at the Metropolitan Opera House, violinist Helen Hagnes left the orchestra at intermission, but never returned. The naked and bound body of the 30-year-old was discovered in a ventilation shaft the next day. The tabloids went bonkers over the story of such a brutal crime at such a posh institution like the Met. They dubbed the killer the Phantom of the Opera.
How fucking original.
Detectives asked 800 Opera House employees whether they saw anything dodgy during the performance. Investigators homed in on a 21-year-old stagehand named Craig Crimmins. He told police he'd been drinking and smoking pot when he crossed paths with Hagnes backstage. When he made a pass at her, she slapped his face. In a fit of anger, he threatened her with a hammer and forced her up the stairs to the roof. Though she was tied up, the musician fought back. Crimmins kicked her into the shaft, where she plummeted 6 stories. Hagnes died just feet away from the 10,000 unsuspecting opera patrons. Craig Crimmins was convicted in 1981 and is currently serving a 20 to life sentence.
Okay, so yeah, of course the New York press handled it with their usual
subtlety,
delicacy, respect for the victim. Yes,
murder at the Met.
Yeah, so the details are a little weird.
Yeah, but they track very closely with this episode.
They do,
which is so weird.
Let's talk about the real crime, though. Okay, Hagnes was backstage looking for a visiting ballet performer, to discuss some artistic opportunities for her husband. By the way, shout out to women who get their husbands jobs in entertainment.
You're welcome.
Yeah, she and Crimmins met in an elevator. Now, he says, at first he forced her down 5 flights of stairs to a sub-basement, forced her to undress in a failed attempt to rape her, made her get dressed and march her up 6 flights of stairs to the roof. Up there, he says, he tied her up and was going to leave her, but her legs got free and she ran. So he caught her and he retied her, threw her pocketbook and closed down the shaft. And again, he was walking away when she started to struggle free of the ropes, and that's when he kicked her and she fell down the shaft. I don't believe those details.
Neither do I.
I don't either.
It just seems like he's trying to say, well, if she had been a better kidnapping victim, she'd be alive.
She'd been
right?
a better. It also sounds like one of those BS theory of the crime timelines that explains a bunch of random evidence the police found, and the only way to get them to piece it all together was to make him tell a crazy story about how it happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's his videotape confession.
Like, how did we find blood all the way down there and also all the way up here?
Yeah, that's a lot. What is he trying to get his 10,000 steps in? That's ridiculous. Oh, well, let's go back up the step. Fuck off. I think he did admit that he, if she hadn't slapped him, it wouldn't have gone the way it did, but it's like...
Yeah. She also kneed him in the balls.
Good for her.
Yeah.
I would have too.
Yeah, same.
too, yeah. Crimmins actually has been the subject of many reform-focused news articles.
Really?
40 years behind bars already. He's been a model inmate and has been turned down for parole every 2 years. And experts cite the problem with parole boards dealing with criminals in high-profile cases. That the thought is if you let him out and he does something, the governor's not going to reappoint you to this $100,000 a year job where you work 3 days a week and get a car.
I can see that.
Yeah.
However, he did also kick a woman down a shaft. So,
right.
And she died.
But if you're determining his eligibility for parole,
yes.
Do you retry the case?
No.
Or do you figure out whether or not he's
reformed
and can be return to society? That's the question. Anybody want to solve the justice system's problems?
So I said to the guy, I said, don't let anyone slap you and stay away from the opera house. I mean, Jesus, like, I don't know. I'm no expert, but it does seem like the odds of reoffending in this particular way are fairly low, and perhaps we ought to focus on things like integrating parolees back into society in a productive way.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Look, investigators discovered in their search of the Met, and this was in the newspapers love this, they discovered that there were various semen stains from multiple donors on the curtain.
Right.
So I guess it wasn't just Mozart who had a magic flute.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
No, me neither.
Who fucks up against the curtain? You'll fall through.
No, they're using it to wipe.
Fuck me.
Don't ask Reinhardt to do it.
And that's going to do it for us. We want to thank our special guest, 4-time appearances, Sarah D. Bunting.
You get a jacket next time.
Yes.
Is it soaked in cocaine? Otherwise, I'm not interested.
It's a green cloak.
We'll see what we can do. Where can our listeners follow you online?
I would love it if they would listen to my true crime review podcast, The Blotter Presents, and you can follow that on Twitter at Blotter Presents.
And Rebecca Lavoie, how can our listeners follow you?
I would love it if they would listen to my true crime review podcast.
They should.
Do both. Or you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Reb Lavoie.
And you can track me on Twitter at Kevin P. Flynn. You can also tweet to us at Law and Order Pod or follow us on Instagram at These Are Their Stories Podcast. Our newsreader was Cy Frater. Our theme music was composed and performed by Uncanny Valleys. Line editing by Henry Lavoie. Content assistance from Travis Roy. Lily Flynn handles promotions. To get ad-free episodes of These Are Their Stories a week early, sign up for Stitcher Premium. All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. Special thanks to the elite squad of the Law & Order Wiki community for preserving the evidence. Go to lawandorderpodcast.com and sign up for our newsletter for a chance to be our next Law & Order Marathon winner. These Are Their Stories was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio and is a production of Partners in Crime Media.
Partners in Crime Media.